The Antagonids had achieved yet another astonishing triumph. In a brilliant campaign, Demetrios and Antigonos wrested the jewel of Ptolemy's empire, the island of Cyprus, from his grasp. Following this victory, they boldly crowned themselves kings, shedding any pretense of safeguarding Alexander the Great's lineage. Inspired by their audacity, the other Diadochi followed suit, each declaring themselves sovereigns and vying to step into Alexander's role. With the bonds of unity shattered, the ambitions of these titans of antiquity ignited a clash that would rage across the Mediterranean. The Fourth War of the Diadochi stretched far beyond initial expectations, with its defining moment drawing ever closer on a small island that had thus far managed to maintain its neutrality, Rhodes. Here, Demetrios, now crowned as the savior god and king of Asia, would earn the epithet for which history remembers him most, Poliorcetes, the besieger of cities. Welcome to the 7th episode of our series on the Wars of the Diadochi, centering on the epic Battle of Rhodes. Why Rhodes? Rhodes, a city-state of strategic importance and unique allure, was both an enticing and unconventional target for the Antagonids. According to Diadoros Psycholos, Rhodes thrived as a stable and prosperous polis, a rare gem in a chaotic era. Its wealth and influence made it a coveted prize for all the Diadochi. Yet the Rhodians, keenly aware of their precarious position, were determined to remain neutral, maintaining economic ties with all factions while avoiding permanent alliances. Nevertheless, their subtle leanings hinted at favoring one side, a nuance that would soon draw them into the maelstrom. Rhodes' economic lifeline tied it closely to its largest trading partner, the Ptolemies. This dependence influenced its diplomatic decisions, leading the Rhodians to avoid overtly antagonizing the Ptolemies' enemies. For instance, they declined Demetrios' request for assistance during the pivotal Battle of Salamis, as detailed in our previous episode. This act of neutrality, however, put the island in the crosshairs of Demetrios, who saw Rhodes as a strategic jewel in his campaign against Ptolemy. By seizing this vital hub, the gateway to the Aegean, Demetrios could establish a stronghold to dominate the eastern Mediterranean, gaining a critical advantage in the ongoing struggle. While strategically sound, his plan came at a significant reputational cost. Attacking a neutral and mercantile city earned him the scorn of many Hellenic city-states, branding him as little more than a pirate in the eyes of his contemporaries. The siege of Rhodes. At the port of Lorma, preparations for the siege began in earnest. Under Demetrios' command, the Antagonid army assembled a formidable force. The fleet boasted 200 warships, many outfitted with advanced artillery machines. To support this naval force, 170 supply ships carried provisions and equipment for over 40,000 soldiers ready to lay siege to Rhodes. Diadoros Psycholos claims, perhaps with some exaggeration, that an additional fleet of 1,000 smaller pirate ships shadowed the Antagonid navy, opportunistically awaiting the devastation of Rhodes. Many of these pirates were employed by Demetrios as light raiders, further amplifying his force. With his army and navy ready, Demetrios set sail for Rhodes. Upon hearing of the impending invasion, the Rhodians mobilized their defenses. They mustered 6,000 citizen soldiers, 1,000 medics, and an unknown number of enslaved individuals to fortify their city. As Demetrios' fleet loomed on the horizon, blockading the port of Rhodes, his troops disembarked on the island's southwestern coast, setting the stage for one of the most extraordinary sieges in ancient history. After establishing a foothold on the plains of Rhodes, Demetrios unleashed his pirate allies to conduct raids across the island, aiming to harass and weaken the Rhodian populace. Despite initial attempts to negotiate a peaceful resolution, the Rhodians found diplomacy futile and prepared for battle. In a daring counterattack, 3 Rhodian ships broke through the fortified harbor, sank several Antagonid vessels, and returned triumphant, showcasing the brilliance of Rhodian craftsmanship and naval skill. Although Demetrios' blockade encircled Rhodes, it was never entirely effective. Ptolemaic-funded supplies continued to breach the siege, ensuring the Rhodians were not left isolated. Their diplomatic acumen also bore fruit as envoys reached Cassander and Lysimachos, garnering potential support. Undeterred, Demetrios intensified his efforts, constructing an additional harbor and a wave breaker to safeguard his fleet. Smaller ships, outfitted with artillery and Cretan archers, were deployed for swift raids, while massive siege platforms equipped with catapults and towers transformed supply ships into mobile war machines. The Rhodians countered by fortifying their harbor and walls with artillery, preparing for the inevitable assault. When bad weather disrupted an initial attack, Demetrios launched his offensive under the cover of night. His troops secured a beachhead at the mole, setting the stage for a daytime assault. Towing artillery-laden ships into the harbor, he unleashed a relentless barrage, but the Rhodians, though suffering heavy losses, held their ground. In a heroic effort, they even attempted to burn the retreating Antigonid fleet, though the assault ultimately failed. Escalation of tactics. Regrouping, Demetrios launched another amphibious assault, briefly breaching the walls before being repelled again. The Rhodians, despite burying their dead, braced for what was to come. Demetrios then shifted to a dual strategy. Light ships fired flaming projectiles at Rhodian defenses, attempting to destroy their naval fleet, while his artillery battered the city walls. Despite severe damage, the defenders managed to salvage their ships, refusing to yield. As the walls weakened, the Rhodians resorted to desperate measures. In an act of unmatched bravery, 2 light ships rammed and destroyed key siege engines, sacrificing themselves to cripple the Antigonid assault. While some engines survived, the attack forced Demetrios to withdraw temporarily. A fierce storm further disrupted his plans, allowing the Rhodians to dismantle the Antigonid outpost on the mole and eliminate the troops stationed there. The arrival of 650 Ptolemaic reinforcements through the blockade bolstered the defenders' resolve. The Helepolis and final assault. By 304 BC, Demetrios, now 32, embarked on constructing his ultimate siege weapon, the Helepolis. This colossal tower, an engineering marvel reinforced with iron plates to withstand fire, represented his moniker Poliorketes, the besieger of cities. Meanwhile, the Rhodians scrambled to build a second wall and launched naval raids on Antigonid supply lines. Their efforts secured critical grain supplies, prolonging their resistance. As winter set in, Demetrios employed sappers to dig tunnels beneath the outer walls, hoping to bypass the Rhodian defenses. However, the defenders soon discovered the plot, setting the stage for an intense showdown that would define the siege's conclusion. The fate of Rhodes hung precariously in the balance, as the ingenuity and determination of both sides clashed in a struggle for survival and dominance. As Demetrios continued his siege, the Rhodians countered with remarkable ingenuity. Discovering the tunnels dug by Antigonid sappers, the defenders began digging their own countertunnels. This led to an extraordinary underground clash beneath the city, adding a new dimension to the battle. Meanwhile, Demetrios prepared for his final push, clearing the path for the colossal Helepolis while constructing protective penthouses for his soldiers wielding battering rams. The Rhodians, supplied with Ptolemaic ordnance, executed a daring nighttime assault on the Helepolis. Choosing a moonless night to conceal their movements, they unleashed a fierce barrage, inflicting significant damage on the siege tower without rendering it inoperable. Despite this setback, Demetrios pressed on. During the siege, a group of Athenians in Rhodes attempted to negotiate peace through a representative named Athenagoras. Demetrios, seizing the opportunity, sent a man named Alexander the Macedonian as a ploy to infiltrate the city. However, the plan backfired when the Rhodians, forewarned by Athenagoras, killed Alexander on the spot. The next phase of the assault saw the Helepolis advance slowly, propelled by 3,400 soldiers. Accompanying it, battering rams broke through the outer walls, forcing the defenders to retreat to the inner defenses. The Antigonid forces, led by the elite General Alcamos and 1,500 handpicked troops, launched a daring nighttime raid, breaching the city and advancing toward the heart of Rhodes. The Rhodian counterattack. Confident in their impending victory, the Antigonid troops moved swiftly through the city. However, as they reached the theater, Rhodian defenders launched a fierce counterattack. Fighting with the desperation of those defending their homeland, they overwhelmed the elite forces in a bloody battle, killing or capturing every Antigonid soldier. This setback only fueled Demetrios' frustration and impatience. As the siege dragged on, a message arrived from Antigonos himself. Concerned that the prolonged campaign was tarnishing the Antigonids' reputation, Antigonos ordered Demetrios to lift the siege. Though he still possessed ample resources, Demetrios reluctantly obeyed and entered negotiations with the Rhodians. The settlement. The resulting agreement was as follows. Rhodes would remain autonomous and demilitarized. The city would be exempt from tribute and free to continue trade. Rhodes would ally with the Antigonids, but only against Ptolemy. 100 Rhodian citizens would be sent as hostages to secure the peace. With the terms finalized, Demetrios withdrew, leaving Rhodes undefeated but strategically aligned. Aftermath. The failure to conquer Rhodes was a significant blow to Antigonid ambitions and a major propaganda victory for their adversaries. For the Rhodians, the successful defense of their city was a monumental achievement. In celebration, they fulfilled promises made during the siege, liberating all enslaved people who had fought alongside them. Statues of Cassander and Lysimachos were erected in honor of their support, while the greatest tribute was reserved for Ptolemy, who had been instrumental in their survival. Rhodes' resistance became a symbol of resilience and independence, and the events of the siege would echo throughout the history of the Hellenistic world. Following the siege, the Rhodians commemorated their victory with remarkable architectural and cultural achievements. In an act inspired by Alexander's visit to the Oracle of Ammonius, where he was declared the son of Zeus, the Rhodians sought to deify their savior, Ptolemy. The oracle gave its blessing, leading to the construction of the Ptolemaium, a grand square and temple complex in Rhodes where Ptolemy was worshipped as a god. This was not an isolated event. Demetrios had similarly been deified by the Athenians. The siege's other major legacy was the construction of the Colossus of Rhodes, one of the 7 wonders of the ancient world. Using the 300 talents gained from selling abandoned Antigonid equipment, the Rhodians commissioned chairs of Lindos to craft a monumental statue of their patron deity, Helios. Standing 33 meters tall at the harbor's entrance, the Colossus symbolized the resilience of Rhodes and its finest hour. Demetrios' campaigns in Greece. While the Rhodians celebrated their triumph, Demetrios was ordered to withdraw due to mounting political and military pressures. On the Greek mainland, Cassander had besieged Athens, retaliating against the city's alignment with the Antigonids under the guise of defending Hellenic freedom. However, Demetrios' arrival at Chalcis forced Cassander to retreat toward Macedon. The two armies clashed in the Kaladermon mountain pass, where Demetrios secured a decisive victory. His charisma and success on the battlefield led to the defection of 6,000 Macedonian troops, leaving Cassander's authority in Greece severely weakened. Seizing the opportunity, Demetrios launched a full-scale campaign to solidify his control over southern Greece. He expelled Ptolemaic and Cassandrian garrisons from the Peloponnese and proclaimed the freedom of all Hellenic city-states. In a move reminiscent of Philip and Alexander, he was declared commander of the Hellenes, embodying the pan-Hellenic ideal. All of southern Greece, except for Sparta, embraced his leadership. To secure his political alliances further, Demetrios married Diadomia, a Melatian princess, uniting the Antigonids with the royal house of Epiros. The Antigonid ascendancy and resistance. Cassander, reeling from his defeats, sought peace with Antigonos. However, Antigonos demanded complete surrender, which Cassander refused. Turning to Lysimachos, who had finally subdued the Thracians, Cassander formed an alliance with Ptolemy and Seleucus. In Alexandria, Ptolemy eagerly prepared for a counteroffensive, planning an invasion of Sidon. Meanwhile, envoys sent to Babylon found Seleucus preoccupied, adding uncertainty to the fragile alliance. The stage was set for yet another confrontation, as the balance of power between the Diadochi continued to shift. While Seleucus remained in the distant east, envoys journeyed further into his domain, delaying the formation of the coalition against Antigonos. Despite these logistical challenges, the alliance of Ptolemy, Cassander, Lysimachos, and Seleucus slowly coalesced. When fully realized, this formidable union would shake the very foundations of the Eastern Mediterranean, setting the stage for a cataclysmic confrontation. The sunset of the Siege of Rhodes. The Siege of Rhodes, despite its ultimate failure, left a lasting legacy. The completion of the Colossus symbolized the resilience of Rhodes and marked the twilight of one of the Antigonids' most notable military blunders. Yet, despite this setback, the Antigonid kingdom retained its might, controlling vast territories across Syria and Anatolia. However, their enemies were poised for retribution, and the stakes of the next battle would redefine the Hellenistic world. A world on the brink. The Fourth War of the Diadochi was hurtling toward its climactic finale, a decisive battle that would determine the balance of power among Alexander's successors. The fate of the Hellenistic world hung in the balance, its destiny awaiting the outcome of the final clash. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to subscribe and click the bell to stay updated on the next chapter in this saga. Liking, commenting, and sharing our videos helps immensely in keeping the channel thriving. For even more content, consider becoming a patron or YouTube member through the links provided. You'll gain access to exclusive weekly videos, early releases, private Discord discussions, and much more.